With that in mind, we head down to Big D, Dallas, Texas, where SMU is located. Billy Embody covers SMU for On3 Sports. Billy, thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
So, in August, did you ever say to yourself, this could happen?
I would say no, but I will say that we were talking about this today on our podcast. There are so many ifs with any team going into the season. And we said if SMU's revamped deep defensive line stepped up to the challenge of the ACC, they'd have a chance to be pretty good defensively. If the quarterback performance stepped up to the level of the ACC, they'd have a chance. There were a lot of question marks. Who was going to be the running back? How would the offensive line step up? That was revamped. And man, Brett Lashley and his staff got a bunch of yes, they were going to be able to step up over the course of this season. They made a quarterback change and it panned out. And obviously it has worked out in a big way for SMU to be in the college football playoff. But no, not many people had SMU in the college football playoff because look, this is the first time ever that a school has stepped up to a power conference level from Group of Five, and I think done better than 7-5, let alone going unbeaten in your conference in the regular season. This is one of the better stories.
Billy, when they made the quarterback change to go to Kevin Jennings, did they have any inkling it would work this well?
Honestly, I think they really felt like he had a chance to be a star in Rhett Lashley's offense with what Rhett likes to do. You look at Nick Marshall back when Rhett was the offensive coordinator at Auburn. That was kind of what I compared it to in terms of the hope and the blueprint. And he hit. And I will say this about Kevin. He has grown so much over the course of his SMU career from being, kind of a skinny, gunslinger-ish mentality coming out of Dallas South Oak Cliff, but a quiet winner. He won a state championship, the first Dallas ISD state championship in 50 years at SOC. So he always kind of had that little bit of an it factor to him. But I mean, to have him on early 2025 Heisman Trophy list right now, that's a huge step up, I would say, from the expectations versus what is unfolded here.
Kind of talk to me about Rhett Lashley. Not as well known a name in Nashville, Tennessee as, if he were in the SEC right now. What is it he's done? What buttons is it he's pushed that has got them in this position?
Rhett is very, very loyal to his players, and he will stick up for them. He will always take up for them when it comes to, talking about the transfer portal and all the different things that are grabbing at his players right now, whether it be NIL, people hitting them up to transfer and leave the program, or just being real with them about their role. On a team that has brought in and recruited, quite frankly, over a lot of players with the transfer portal, they've been able to do that because their culture is strong. That, hey, we're going to bring in a guy because it's our job to put together the best roster we can so that the team can be successful. But we can't do that without you guys all buying in that and trusting that even if we bring in so-and-so from an SEC school in here, like they've done at a couple different spots, that guy still has to earn it, and we'll still play the best player that is on our team. And that's what he's shown he's been able to do with his players. On the flip side of that, in terms of hiring staff, I mean, he has built a really strong coaching staff, combined with guys that he's known for a while that have come up with him through the coaching ranks, to going out and getting a defensive staff where he really didn't know that many of them, well, I would say. He's let Scott Simons, the defensive coordinator, do his thing on the defensive side of the ball, and he made a great hire there. And then he's done a good job of balancing risk versus reward when it comes to the transfer portal. They don't really take many guys that, you've heard stories about them being upset with playing time or this or that off the field. They do a good job of balancing culture and talent when bringing them into this program now.
Kelly, we promised Billy that we would have him out of here by 4:30 Central Time, so I'll throw it to you and just kind of look at the clock.
Billy, I appreciate it, man. Hey, ask me this, or tell me this, with the success that SMU's had, you talk about guys and you talk about how Lashley has done a really good job of keeping guys doing that. But like SMU is kind of before they came on, they had this success. They were kind of like a stepping stone in this new era of college football. But what do you think this success does for keeping players there?
Yeah, a lot of players that they find in the transfer portal or high school ranks, they've all been a part of winning. That's one of the key things that they look for. And guys tend to stay in those environments. Red actually was asked this the other day when it comes to transfers and guys not playing, maybe from, a high school class recently. And he said, look, guys, that wait their turn at Alabama, is what he compared it to, have seen that pay off, whether it be through winning or getting opportunities in the NFL. And he said, look, we have good players ahead of them, but they're going to need to continue to carry the torch. And they do have high school guys that have carried that torch very well for them on this roster, in particular, Kevin Jennings, who's their quarterback. But, when it comes to their overall program trajectory now, this is no longer a stepping stone job. And in part because, these donors, this fan base is so energized to get back to a consistent level of winning like they had in the 80s. And now that it's legal, NIL, they can do that in a sense. And they are motivated to pay up for a Rhett Lashley, who they just extended. Scott Simon's their defensive coordinator, is now among the top paid defensive coordinators in the country. Kevin Jennings is going to be one of the higher end quarterbacks paid next year. They have the resources to compete at a high level every year. And that's not to mention they've built in the last 4 years, including the opening of their new football operations building this year, about $175 million of facilities just for football alone. So these donors, these coaches, these players, they're motivated to win for all the people that have come before them. And now they have the seat at the ACC table, and they can compete for a national championship every year if they put together a good enough roster, which changes the dynamic here.
So Billy, you kind of talked about it, and with us being where we live locally and regionally, we see SEC games and things like that. You don't get to see SMU much, but in the Clemson game, I was quite shocked at how the defensive line played. I thought the defensive line did a really good job and started getting pressure on the Klubnik kid from Clemson, and in the second half played really well. Did you see that?
Yeah, you were shocked by them playing well. I was shocked by how SMU started that game. I'll be honest with you. That was not what I was expecting just with their fast starts this year. But, SMU's defensive line, that's the thing about how they've managed building this roster. They're not going to go out and, grab the highest ranked transfer portal defensive lineman just to say they got them and then they're done. They're going to go out and find guys that were underappreciated at SEC schools, like Jonathan Jefferson, one of their defensive tackles, or Tank Booker from Arkansas. They got them and they developed them and they gave them new confidence, and they're playing in a rotation and logging 40, 50 snaps a game, and they're able to play at a higher level because they have a rotation. And I've kind of said that throughout this year of, being on radio stations or things like that, is go watch the SMU defensive line. They will rotate in a wave, and they will bring back in the starters, and then they'll go to a third guy here and there. They have a lot of depth, and it wears teams down over the course of a game. And I think this weekend at Penn State is an opportunity for them to show that once again. That was a good Clemson offensive line that has some pros on it, and Penn State's going to be the same, and they'll be able to maybe showcase that if they play up to their standard this weekend.
So, other than the weather, what do you think? What concerns do you have in this Penn State game? Because I enjoyed watching SMU. I really thought that Kevin Jennings, you talked about the quarterback change earlier in the year. I liked him, and just listening to the broadcast, they were talking about how this guy, how Coach Lashley said that, when it gets bigger, he gets better, and I think you saw that in the game. But you're going up to Penn State; it's going to be cold. You're bringing some Texas guys up there. What concerns you about this game?
Billy, you got a little more than a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the weather is a concern, but it's really a mindset for SMU that I think is a little different than maybe against Clemson. And it was kind of cold. It wasn't as cold as it's going to be this weekend, but they were able to find their footing once they realized, hey, this isn't the 86 Bears. This is just Clemson. They're a good team, but they've got to start that way against Penn State this weekend. And I think the dynamic has shifted from, man, SMU's got to win or they're going to get left out of the playoff to, oh, we're here. Penn State hasn't won a big game in a long, long time. That's the pressure on them. And they're hosting. Okay, we can go in and just kind of play our game and let our play do the talking. So I think that's kind of the difference in mindset for them. And if they have the right mindset, I know it's cliche, they've usually been able to play really well. And, that's why they're in the college football playoffs. So the biggest thing will be being ready to get off the bus and compete in a college football playoff game right away against 110,000 some people. That'll be the biggest battle that they face, more so than the weather.
Billy, we got you out of here with about 10 seconds to spare. Thanks for the visit.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.